You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. From roommates to co-hosts, this is the BS Sports Show with Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner. Your go-to destination for New York hockey and NHL news. And now it's time to drop the puck. Here are your hosts, Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner.
Who is a senior editor at NHL.com. And we have James Nichols coming on from the Hockey Writers, who covers the Islanders as well later on. Stefan, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I mean, I guess I'll get this segment going, the BS segment, with my own little BS. Suffering with a shoulder injury right now. And Brendan, we have a big tournament coming up.
Yep.
I'm trying to rest up for that, and my team could not find a replacement. Because I'm for the boys, I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll come, whatever. I really can't lift my left shoulder, but if I got to make a glove save, I got to make a glove save. That's just how it goes. Get to the game, get dressed. We're waiting. The other team doesn't show up. So I go to the front desk. I'm like, hey, what's the deal? They called everybody on the team. Not one person picked up the phone. Not one person. So we stayed and scrimmaged for a little bit. Should I have probably played in the scrimmage? No, probably not. But as the only goalie there, I felt bad. So I played in the scrimmage. I wasn't making flashy glove saves. I was trying to catch it. And even the motion of just hitting the glove killed me. At the end, they go, let's do a shootout. I said, you're out of your goddamn mind. And that's how I ended yesterday. But that was BS. If you're going to cancel. Don't let the other team leave them hanging, because that was very annoying. But to bigger BS news, Brendan.
Yes.
The OHL decided they don't want to play hockey this year. They don't want to play ice hockey this year. Going more of a roller hockey type of play.
They're playing beer league, men's league right there.
Zero body checking for this upcoming season. Upcoming season. And yes, we want leagues to play it safe. This pandemic is coming back full speed, it seems like. So let's play it safe. But at the same time, Brendan, how far are you away from someone during a face-off?
I mean, that's part of it, right? How far away when you sit on the bench? How far are you away when you're warming up and you're skating in the neutral zone next to each other? I mean, how far away are you when you go into a corner, even if you're just doing a puck battle? The whole game is played in close quarters. So it's a little ridiculous that they're saying, okay, body checking is where that has to draw the line. But the rest of the game is fine. When you're watching football, and sure, they have a couple of cases, but they're tackling each other every play. I mean, you watch baseball, they're all sitting on top of each other in the dugout, spitting on first base at each other, right? And they still manage to get through it. So I think that this is a little bit of a over precautionary measure. It's just too much. And if you're going to play hockey next year, you got to play it the way it should be played, because it affects the prospects who are looking to make the jump to the next level as well.
No, we spoke about that. Prospects, for sure. I mean, for a lot of players, physicality plays a major role in the deciding factor. Everyone's, a lot of these players are big, tall, but it's who could take a hit, who could give hits. And if you can't hit, what are you judging them on? Yep. It's like, all right, look, I'm thinking of a guy like Jack Hughes just comes to mind. He got bullied his rookie year. Bullied. Let's say that he played in the OHL, which obviously he didn't. He played for the USA Development. But let's say that he was in this league in the OHL and great skill. This is what you're going to see this year. You're going to see a lot of finesse, a lot of speed, and all that kind of stuff, because you can't hit. No body checking. So then Jack Hughes looks so much better than he is. But one flaw was that he gets pushed around. He's not a big kid. He's tall, but he's not big. That was one flaw. He still goes number one overall. But now the teams can't even see that he can't handle a hit. So now he's up there when he's still high up, but not to that level. Comes to the NHL and plays and gets absolutely destroyed on every hit, loses pucks, all that kind of stuff. So then you go, well, oh, okay, they couldn't hit in the OHL, so we didn't see that. And that's obviously, I'm playing that to a very, very basic point. These guys have been, being looked at by scouts for years, so they obviously know. I just think it's foolish because, holding penalties, you're going to get more of a penalty now because holding's really close in corners. Are you going to get fined now for holding?
Well, we talk about that. Connor McDavid played in this league, right? Now, if you're an OHL defenseman who's 18 facing somebody like a Connor McDavid before he went to the NHL, he's already head and shoulders better than you when you're allowed to hit him. Now you're not allowed to hit him. So you have to poke check. He's going to go right around you through a poke check. And there's so many skilled guys like that in that league that are just going to be able to manipulate their way around defensemen because of that rule. So I think it's ridiculous. You look at somebody like that the Rangers just drafted early on, and William Cooley, right? He's a 6'2" guy that played for the Windsor Spitfires of the OHL. He's a big-bodied forward, and yes, he can score, but his big thing was like a kind of a Tom Wilson type where he gets to the net, he hits the defenders hard, and he makes them pay. Now, a player like that, if he's not allowed to hit this year, his draft stock would have plummeted because he only scored 22 goals in the OHL, so you don't get to see that physical side of him. So to me, it's just a ridiculous rule. And the OHL premier, not the OHL, the Ontario premier, Doug Ford, said he wants to see the league come back with checking. So I don't think that this rule is cemented in stone yet, even though it was reported that it is. I think we're going to see a couple of more studies done and some more manipulation around it.
I can't wait for that one guy that goes for that cross ice, just crushing somebody, leveling them at center ice, and then going, oops. I mean, what is it? Every hit's a penalty? Is that how they're going to play this out?
I would guess, but it's instinctual, right? You've been doing it since you were 14.
But then you're going to crowd the penalty box.
What happens if you have two? And what qualifies as a check? Because in women's hockey, right, they're not allowed to check, but they're allowed to bump. Like you could, if you're going into the corner, you're allowed to bump. So are you allowed to still do that here, or is that too close contact? But because that's ridiculous now. I'd rather get lit up because that's less contact time than getting bumped along the boards and getting tied up. Yeah,
well, I think it's when rules change from one league to another. The biggest thing for me is football. Why in college you need 1 foot, and then the NFL you need 2? You're telling me these kids who probably get drafted, some of them will play in the AHL, the NHL next season, depending. They're going to go from not hitting, a whole season of not hitting, to then facing the best of the best in the world and getting hit.
And bigger guys, too. They're not 18-year-olds anymore. It's
obviously, the NHL is not going to have no hitting. So I don't know why. If the NHL was the safest league with the bubble, they know what they're doing. Yes, the OHL is a different entity, it's a different business, everything like that. But at the same time, if the NHL could do it and make it safe, I really don't see why the OHL has to go this far. If they do rapid testing and all that kind of stuff, then the kids should be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think that rapid testing, as we've seen, whether it's sports or colleges going back and all that stuff is the most important part. You got to find out who has it before you could start, making it safe for everybody. So if the testing's not up to par, it doesn't matter whether they're checking or not. As long as the guy's sitting on the bench or sitting next to somebody on the ice, and it's over. They're going to get COVID regardless of whether they're getting checked. Like, that's foolish of the league to assume that that's where the only way transmission will occur. But we do have to move on to some of the NHL's biggest news, starting with breaking news with Tyler Seguin and Ben Bishop of the Dallas Stars, who are each expected to miss 5 months after they had surgeries on their respective injuries this offseason. That's a big blow for the Dallas Stars. Obviously, we saw what Anton Khudobin can do, so they have that guy in goal. But losing Tyler Seguin, despite a down year, still losing a superstar caliber forward, and now you're not going to get them back till February or mid-March, depending on whether their surgery process and healing process goes well. But the one thing that they have in their advantage is we do not know when the season will start yet. So if it does get delayed till February, that might help out the Dallas Stars, similar to like what the Yankees did with all their injured sluggers coming back because of a delayed start to the season.
Yeah, well, now looking back, I didn't think Khudobin was leaving anyway.
Yep.
But the fact they do bring him back, Ben Bishop is just made of paper. He's made of paper. He cannot stay. It reminds me of Danny Amendola. The guy just falls apart, and I don't understand why. It's a big, maybe because he's just a big guy, and there's too many limbs, they're too big, and everything like that. He can't control them. But at the same time, he's so good, but you got to be healthy to make a difference. And if you're not going to be healthy, then what's the point? Why are they paying you money? Khudobin could easily handle the starting job. We know that he can. We've seen what he could do. Obviously, he got a little tired in the playoffs, but let's get to the playoffs first. And Tyler Seguin, doesn't matter if he's a down year. He's a weapon. He's an offensive weapon, and if anything, he distracts the opponent's defensive group from other guys on their team and allows them to get open and score more goals. I think that's a bigger loss than Bishop. Bishop will be missed. Maybe he'll be back, but if he comes back, he'll probably get hurt again. It's something about you got to be able to stay healthy. There's no point in shelling money out to a guy that can't stay healthy.
Well, I think that what people forget is Bishop's huge. What is he, 6'8", 6'7"?
If I was looking at him, I'd have to look up.
Yeah, so I think that his injuries right now are knee-related. And we've seen in whatever the sport is, the bigger you are, the easier it is for your body to break down and get injured. And once a goalie of that size starts to suffer from knee injuries and knee issues, all of a sudden you're looking at going down to a butterfly, puts a new torque on that body. And it's going to take a while for him to get back. So, yes, I agree with you that bringing back Anton Khudobin, it speaks volumes to how uncomfortable the Stars front office probably feels with Bishop's health.
And also, like, tell that to Grandpa Chara.
Yeah.
He's never hurt, but again,
it is a
not
different
goalie.
position.
Yeah, that's true. He's not a goalie, but he blocks shots and does all that stuff. I just think there comes a time where you have to be like, okay, you're very, very good when you play, but you don't play. You're out more than you're in, and at the end of the day, that makes you worthless.
Yep. It really does. But another thing that we have to talk about is, again, Mitchell Miller. Now, granted, he's been in the hockey news for all of the wrong reasons, but the University of North Dakota just cut ties with him from their athletic program as well. They did make a statement saying they will allow him to remain as a student at their university, saying they will continue supporting his future intellectual and interpersonal growth. But I believe that as somebody like a Mitchell Miller that wants to play hockey, he's probably going to look overseas, and there probably will be some KHL teams that are open to taking him in.
You should have to take a mandatory racial and equality class. We did take one in college, Brendan.
We did. Every class nowadays kind of has a racial and political aspect to it, whether it's economics, all this stuff, because it's all tied in together. So I think if he did stay at college, he would be learning a thing or two about that type of topic. But I know that SKA St. Petersburg, which we're familiar with, obviously with the Sorokin and Shesterkin type of players, they are very interested in taking him on because despite all of this stuff, at the end, he's a talented young hockey player. So a team in Russia that's not going to face the political backlash that the United States hockey leagues and North American hockey leagues, in that matter, would have to face, might be willing to say, hey, why don't you come play for us professionally over here?
It's just the craziest thing I find is he has still never publicly or privately apologized
to that kid. Yeah.
To Meyer Crothers. He has never once done that. His mom said that in a USA Today article that he has never once apologized. That's why I honestly go fall off a cliff, play hockey in a country that no one even watches. I mean, obviously,
a lot of people
watch it. But at the same time, it's like you said, they're not going to face the backlash. You know why they're not going to face the backlash?
Why?
Look at the demographic of those countries, of that country specifically. It's not a prominent issue. And I think that they should care about what the United States think and what, the world thinks about this. I don't think it's on a world level. It's just a North America news outlet, pretty much story. But at the same time, that the reason him not apologizing to this kid makes me think that he was just apologizing that way he didn't ruin his career, which clearly has been ruined or at least on a new path. If he really felt bad about what he did, the first off, it should never happen, obviously. Yep. Second, in the courtroom, after being convicted, I don't know, apologize. Even if it's I don't want to say don't do a fake apology, but you're seeing like apologize. No, apologize. Okay, let me apologize. You think it would be like, even if you were doing it for your career, it'd be a good marketing move to apologize to the kid, even if you didn't feel like you should, even though he doesn't feel like he should. He must have CTE or something. But to just save face, how do you not apologize to the kid you did this to? Now, if you come out and apologize, it's too late.
Yeah.
Now you're doing it because, oh, God, everyone's looking down on me. I'm a terrible person, which you are. You could change. I don't think he's going to change, though, because he hasn't apologized to the kid. I don't think he should be allowed to step on a rink until he apologizes. And when he does apologize, the kid should say, nah, or be like, I forgot what show. I think it's South Park. Someone character has to apologize. Like, I can't hear you. Say it again. I can't hear you. It's just ridiculous at this point that he's still a story because you are a worthless human being if you can't apologize for something you definitely did. I get it if you didn't, let's say you didn't do it and he was accused and he just wants to stand by that he didn't do it. Then why are you apologizing? Of course, you didn't do it. Why would you apologize? You were convicted. The world knows. Apologize to the kid. It's crazy.
I mean, at this point, an apology is meaningless. And even if he were to come out and say something similar to an apology type of, remark to his victim, nobody's going to believe it, even if it was genuine.
No, I'm not going to believe this kid. I will never forget this kid's name, Mitchell Miller. Alliteration, love it. I hope he has success wherever he goes overseas, but I don't ever want to see him in the NHL unless he shows me personally in the hockey world that he's a changed person. He's doing some acts to help fight discrimination and racial inequalities wherever he is. So let's move on because he doesn't deserve the airtime.
Yeah, we have a couple of signings to briefly touch on. Dominic Cahoon signs a 1-year, $925,000 deal with the Edmonton Oilers. He had 12 goals and 19 assists for Buffalo last season. And Anthony Mantha, 4-year, $5.7 million AAV extension with the Detroit Red Wings. A very quiet player at 16 goals, 22 assists, who's very good. And I know that when you watch Detroit play, especially last season when they struggled so mightily, he was one of those guys that stood out as, wow, this kid is going to be special. He's very young still. And if they're building around the amount of prospects that we've talked about them having in their farm system, Anthony Mantha is going to become that veteran type of offensive leadership that Detroit definitely needs to keep around.
Yeah, before we get to Cahoon, because that signing is a great signing for Edmonton. We'll get to that in a second. The Red Wings are doing a very smart thing here with Yzerman. They bring in veterans to hold off pretty much to try to stay relevant. They're not going to be as bad as they were last year. Try to stay relevant in the race until these young guys. This is what they've had, the 6 prospects right here. I can't count, 5. Zadina, 6th overall in 2018. Veleno, 30th overall in 2018. Seider, 6th overall in 2019. Rasmussen, 9th overall in 2017. Cholowski, 20th overall in 2016. They have so many prospects. It's kind of crazy. This guy's Zadina. He's going to be the real deal. But to go to Cahoon, he's played on 4 teams in 3 years. He's bounced around. He played with Chicago, 13 goals his first year, 10 goals his second year when he was playing for Pittsburgh. That was an Olimata deal. Then he goes to Buffalo for a little bit, plays in 6 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, and now he's with the Oilers. And for an Oilers team, Brendan, that is very top 2 line heavy with the scoring, having a guy like this, Cahoon, to be a depth player like a Turris. I mean, he's not going to score 30 goals. He could. The thing is with, McDavid's going against the best defenseman. That means everyone else on the team is going against the second or third pairing. It gives an advantage to those guys. So if Turris and Cahoon could be those guys and help score goals, they still have a goaltending issue. They still have a defense issue. I mean, they did sign – who did they sign earlier?
Defensively for Edmonton?
Yeah, what they traded for. They just got –
I'll blank on his name.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't necessarily think they have a goaltending issue either.
You think Koskinen's the real deal?
I did those articles and I looked at his stats, and his stats were very solid for them. His high danger save percentage was like 8th in the league. He really played well, and I think that his numbers were goals against wise and save percentage might have been inflated, deflated because they weren't a good defensive team. But you saw Mike Smith got the start for some reason in the postseason, and he immediately got pulled. Koskinen was the better goalie then. I think that goaltending-wise, he's not going to be a superstar. I'm not going to say he's a top 10, goaltender in the league at any point in his career, but he's solid. He'll do the job for them. They just got to build those pieces around him. And I think that for me, that becomes the main problem is can they get that defensive help? Because now they got the scoring offensively. Can the defense step up?
They got Barry.
Tyson Barry.
There you go. We both thought about it. It's Tyson Barry. That helps, but it's not the complete same thing. But I do like the signings. Again, Detroit, they're on the right path. They're doing things the right way. Edmonton just needs that depth scoring, and hopefully Cahoon on his many, many teams in a short amount of time, maybe this will be a good home for him.
Maybe. And I mean, we do have to get to a commercial break, but one quick thing before we head off is the Chicago Blackhawks, one of Dominic Cahoon's former teams. They do have a goaltending dilemma of whether who's going to start and which young goaltender that will be. And right now it's between Colin Delia, Malcolm Subban, and Kevin Lankinen. All 3 are unknowns pretty much what their capability is as a starter. Malcolm Subban at 317 goals against at the NHL level last year. Delia a 266, but in the AHL level. So we really don't know where they're going to go. And Jeremy Colliton said one of these guys is going to have to step up, and he really needs one of them to become a starter.
You don't say. I mean, they lose Crawford. They traded Leonard. It's going to be a tough rebuild if one of these guys has to take the role and run with it. Because if it's going to be who's the best out of the worst, it's going to be a very, very long season.
Yes, definitely. So we're going to head to a commercial break right now. When we come back, Jim Cerny will join us, and we will talk to him about the New York Rangers, local hockey, and as well as the NHL as a whole next season. So stay with us, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the BS Sports Show. Now we're going to bring on Jim Cerny, senior editor at NHL.com. Jim, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure, Brendan.
Obviously, I got a lot of questions to ask you, and we're going to rely on your expertise to educate us a little bit around the league.
Rely on my expertise to educate you on it. It's a lot of pressure.
It is, but I think you got definitely a lot of experience and a lot more than me and Stefan and know about this league. So I think you'll do a great job here. So I'm going to kick things off with the first question. Thus far, which team has impressed you the most regarding free agency?
Yeah, it's interesting. Among non-contenders, I really like what the Devils have done, and I really like what Ottawa has done. Both teams had a lot of, flexibility under the salary cap. They were teams that were willing to take on, contracts, bigger contracts of players that, maybe typically weren't going to be moved during the off season. I thought they both made some very, very savvy moves. In the Devils' case, they took a flyer on Ryan Murray. Columbus decided to move on from him, and they were able to get him for a mid-round draft pick. And if Murray's healthy, that gives them a nice veteran, stabilizing top four defenseman, somebody that can really settle things down on the back end. And then, probably even more importantly, to add a little punch to their top six, they get Andreas Janssen from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, taking advantage of the fact that Toronto is up against the cap. It's a flat cap this year. Devils have plenty of room. They're able to add them. It didn't cost a lot, going back the other way. So I really like what they did. And of course, adding Corey Crawford as well. What a great mentor he's going to be, I think, for Mackenzie Blackwood. Not to mention the fact that, that's a nice 1-2 punch there in goal. Corey Crawford still has some good years ahead of him. He showed that last year, certainly showed it in the playoffs with the Blackhawks last year. So I like what they did. I like what Ottawa did, adding Dadonov. I thought they overpaid on the Matt Murray contract, but you know what? You know who your goalie is now for a while. And when this good young team, there's a good young nucleus that's building in Ottawa. When that comes together, you're going to have a 2-time Stanley Cup winner in your goal. So I really like what they did. And of course, Dadonov gives them a veteran that's going to produce offensively. But among teams that, would be more contenders, because I don't really see Ottawa or New Jersey being contenders this year. I thought Calgary made maybe the best move of the entire offseason, and that was getting Jacob Markstrom, signing him to the 6-year deal. I thought he was the best goalie available out there, and that was, to me, has been the crying need for the Calgary Flames this season, the past couple seasons. They've been a good team. They've been good in the regular season, but they fall flat come playoff time, and a lot of that is tied to the goaltending. So now it's not Mike Smith. It's not David Riddick. It's not Cam Talbot. We have a legitimate number one goalie, Markstrom. And even though they lost TJ Brody, they brought Christopher Tanev in on defense. So I really like what Calgary did. And I like what Montreal and Columbus did as well. They kind of shook things up. They made that trade there, Domi for Anderson. But I thought they were good fits for both teams. Montreal going with the young centerman now, so they were able to trade Domi. They've got Suzuki and Kakaniemi in the middle. And they add Anderson, they add Toffoli, and they added Jake Allen. And talk about taking advantage of a team that had to get, lower under the cap, the St. Louis Blues. Getting Jake Allen to be Carey Price's backup, I thought was a steal. That's a fantastic 1-2 punch, I think, with Carey Price and Jake Allen. So, maybe that's a bit of a long-winded answer, but, at teams that I would call contenders, they're the ones that I like. Washington, too. I like them re-signing Brendan Dillon. I like them bringing in Henrik Lundqvist, who's going to be motivated beyond belief this year. And I like the signing. It kind of flew under the radar a little bit of signing Justin Schultz as well. Washington teeing it up for probably a last go at it here. And, of course, they also brought in Peter Laviolette as their coach. So I like what Washington did as well.
Yeah, it's not often that you say a team signing a backup goaltender might be the best move, but we've seen a couple of those for Jake Allen and Henrik Lundqvist, like you just mentioned, that are very impactful for both of those teams. What was your take on the Taylor Hall signing, though? He signed in Buffalo. Do you think it could be a long-term home for him, or do you think it's just a prove-it deal and he's going to go somewhere else next season?
Yeah, we'll see. You would think that this benefits everybody involved. Taylor Hall did not have the greatest of seasons heading into unrestricted free agency. His first whack at being a UFA. This wasn't a couple years ago when he was the Hart Trophy winner with the New Jersey Devils, and he basically single-handedly carried that team, into the playoffs that year. These last two seasons, he got hurt, and then this season, he was okay. He wasn't bad, but it goes to that kind of stigma that Taylor Hall carries with him that he's good. Is he great? Well, he did have that great season, the Hart Trophy season, but he hasn't backed that up. He's going to get a great opportunity this season to cash in, I think, because riding shotgun with Jack Eichel for 82 games or however long the season ends up being, I mean, it's going to benefit Buffalo. Obviously, it makes them a better team. Eichel really, I thought, took a major step forward last year, taking his game to that next level. He's been doing it incrementally every year. I thought he took a huge step this year. But now you add Taylor Hall to that mix, and you would think, at least on paper, that it's a dynamic 2/3 of the top line right there. And it works for Taylor Hall too, because now he's going to go into UFA status again because it's only a 1-year deal. And you would think he's going to have much better numbers, going into the next off season, having played a full year with Jack Eichel. That said, who knows what Taylor Hall is going to like or not like about Buffalo? Either the city or the organization, or again, even with Taylor Hall, they may not be a playoff team.
Yeah.
But he may love playing with Jack Eichel. So how much does that weigh in if Buffalo antes up the money or they're a little short of where Taylor Hall wants to be? If I'm a betting man, as Alain Vigneault loves to say all the time, if I was a betting man, I would think that it's going to be a 1-year marriage, and then Taylor Hall is going to go take the biggest contract out there next offseason. But again, the question will be who's going to create that cap space for him, because it's most likely going to be a flat cap again, the following season.
Yeah, definitely. I think that flat cap is going to play a part, but I would agree. I think everybody that goes to Buffalo seems to have a love or hate relationship with it, and I think that Taylor Hall is going to love it because of the point production he will get playing alongside Eichel and because of the contract that he's going to receive due to that. Welcome back, Stefan, and I'll let you ask question 3.
Hey, Mr. Cerny, thanks for joining us. So, before we get to question 3, what did you feel? How did you feel about what the Avalanche offered Taylor Hall? And do you think that in his mind he even gave it a thought, or you think he just decided, it was such a low ball for him that I'm going to Buffalo?
Well, yeah, the thing with, I think Taylor Hall's obviously he's going to consider all offers. Going into free agency, Taylor Hall said more than once, many times, that the most important thing to him was not the contract or the amount of the contract or the average annual value, but it was going to be, I want a chance to win a Stanley Cup. That's what he said. And he said it over and over again. I want to win a Stanley Cup. I've only been to the playoffs twice. They were quick outs, in Arizona and New Jersey. I've been playing, 8-9 years. I want to play for the Cup. Well, Colorado could afford him that opportunity, and he kind of was called on his bluff there. But again, it's his first whack at UFA status, and he takes the contract in Buffalo, and he's betting on himself to have an even better year and get a bigger contract and maybe a longer-term contract next offseason. So I can't fault him for that. But he did say, and he said over and over and over again, how many stories we posted on our website about him saying, the most important thing is I want to win her. Colorado gave him that opportunity, certainly a much greater opportunity than he'll likely have with the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I think what he said, too, with the Sabres is that he wants Eichel to be in the playoffs. He said it's important for Eichel to get there. But at the same time, like you said, he's been around for a while now. He's only been in the playoffs twice. The Avalanche, not that it's an automatic cup contender, but he would make them a very good bet to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. And he chose Buffalo, so I guess we'll see how that plays out. this upcoming season, they're saying maybe 48 games, maybe a full year. They want to do a full year, but how do you feel about it if it is a shortened season?
Well, we had a shortened season last year, though, we almost got through the entire season. Most teams, played at least 70 games. Some games were above, some teams were above that. It's going to be whatever, physically can be done. Nobody has a crystal ball on the virus here and where, that's going to head. And I don't want to speculate because I don't know. Nobody knows. Gary Bettman doesn't know. Bill Daly doesn't know. The owners don't know. I will say that I think the owners, if they're going to play games, whether it's 48, whether it's 60, whether it's full 82, I would say the owners really, really need and want fans in the stands. I'm here in New York, and right now that wouldn't be the case. The Rangers, Islanders, the Devils, they're in states where they couldn't, play in front of fans, at least as of today. So that, that's a big thing. So much revenue in hockey is generated through ticket sales, more so than, the other four major sports or of the four major sports. So, the owners may, and again, it's, I don't want to speculate, but the owners may choose to go for a shorter season, to maybe, if they're going to lose money, lose less money, but also get to a point where, hey, by, I'm just throwing a number out there, February 1 or 15, if we start then, we can at least have some fans in the stands in all of our arenas, depending on the states or the province. So again, right now it's just pure speculation. I think the NHL proved last year, and I think Major League Baseball proved this year too with the 60-game season. I winced when I saw that MLB was going to be 60 games. I was like, how's this going to count? But you know what? Everybody's playing under the same rules, and they expanded the playoffs. And I thought the playoffs were great. I thought the races for the playoffs in MLB were great. We had, a hell of a World Series, I thought.
Yep.
So, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody was saying, yeah, the Dodgers won. All right. But, it was a 60-game season. I don't, as long as everybody's playing under the same rules, it almost doesn't matter how many games you play. And I think that'll carry forward with hockey as well. The goal, though, is definitely 82. I mean, Gary Bettman has said that all along.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to kind of piggyback off of that, they had some talk about geographic realignment. I know that the Canadian border is still closed right now, and that's going to be an issue when the season does start if it's not reopened. So they were going to go with an all-Canadian division, which is a possibility. I think that the rivalry aspect, that would be crazy, especially if it switches up the East Coast and you're playing more teams like the Rangers, Islanders, Devils play each other a lot more. But what do you think about that? And is it actually a legitimate possibility, or is that just a fan-made creation?
Yeah, no, I think it's being talked about. But again, especially because I work for the league, I don't want to speculate on these things. But,
okay.
Bill Daly has said that it has been, discussed. The reasons why it's being discussed are obvious. The border's still closed between Canada and the United States. So there's no getting around that, unless the border gets lifted. We saw how the Toronto Blue Jays in baseball had to navigate that this season. And there are obviously a lot more Canadian hockey teams than there are, Canadian baseball teams. So, that's a huge stumbling block. But I think, and also when you talk about the geographic options, keeping things closer, less travel, it certainly makes sense. When we talk about the virus and, traveling and being on the road for a long time and going from city to city, the issues with that, football, has had, they've navigated, the COVID-19 pandemic, pretty well, but they travel, teams travel once a week, or, if you're the home team, you travel once every couple weeks or what have you. And they've still had issues. if you had a normal hockey schedule and you go on a 2-week road trip and you play, in 6 different cities, bounce from city to city, I could see where that would be, of concern to the Players Association, and to the teams.
Yeah.
With the realignment potentially, do you think it's possible to do a bubble though for a full league? I know we looked at hockey, it was the playoffs, the bubble worked perfectly. Baseball, it worked once they finally, everyone started paying attention to the rules. But do you think it's possible with just that many teams in it to even do it and make it, functional?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it worked in the playoffs because that's what it was. It was the playoffs. And even though, obviously the 2 teams that were left standing at the end were in the bubble for, 2.5, 3 months almost, that was a major commitment by the players and the staffs and the coaches. And it costs a lot of money to be able to do that properly. And hats off to everybody for pulling it off. But I just can't see it working in the regular season. It's too long a time. There's not that carrot at the end. All right, well, I'll be away from my family for 2 months. I'll tough it out, but I'm doing it because I have a shot, maybe my only shot at winning a Stanley Cup. To do that in the regular season and be away from your families or, for extended periods, I think it would be very difficult. But again, I don't want to speculate because Commissioner Bettman has said all along, everything's on the table. They're open to everything. And by being that way and by the partnership between the Players Association and the league, last year or, last season when we were in the pause and came out of the pause, what they agreed on to do, you're going to need that again here. And I just can't see the players signing off on doing that.
Yeah, I would agree.
That commitment was crazy, but you look back at it separates hockey from other sports where we play to win. I know Pasternak, I'm pretty sure he said, I'll sleep on a cot. He doesn't care where he sleeps. He wants to play. You look at other sports, baseball, they were very lackadaisical with following the rules because they cared more about at times going out and going to, gambling and going out to eat rather than the sport. And for hockey, it seems like, no, we're here to do one thing, and that's to win. I mean, basketball, you had the issues too with the bubble, people bringing in people that weren't allowed, all that stuff. And then it comes back to you care more about winning or the other stuff. And for hockey, it seems like it was all about winning. But I agree with you too. There's too many teams and too much spread, geographically for a bubble to work.
Yeah, definitely. And, when it comes to the Rangers next season, though, if bubble or not, however they wind up playing, we're hoping there's a full season, and the Rangers now have an exciting young team. So do you think that they are contenders or pretenders when it comes to just making the postseason? Forget the whole cup run, because that's, I think, a couple of years away still.
Right. So, all right. So you're not saying Stanley Cup contender. You're just saying, can they be a playoff contender?
Yep.
Or are they pretenders? Well, I'll start with the second part. I don't think they can be pretenders. To me, a pretender is, a team that's further along in the process and where, you have higher expectations for them. So I don't think the Rangers could even fall in that category. Let's say that they take a step back this season. They don't make the playoffs and kids struggle, it takes a while, the chemistry doesn't work. Well, whatever the situation ends up to be. I still don't think that they fall into a pretender category because they're really still just gelling and coming together, and they rely on so many young players that you just don't know. It's got to come together. There's so many things that have to go right for the New York Rangers, for them to realistically raise those expectations, where you'd say, well, they should be in the play. They should be in the playoffs. Well, I don't know that they should be in the playoffs, but that leads to the first part of your questions. Do I think that they'd be a contender for the playoffs? I think absolutely. And I think they showed that last year, certainly in the second half before the season was paused March 12th. I think for sure that they showed that. They have two dynamic forwards in Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad. That is a tremendous building block right there. And the fact that they don't even play on the same line, now you're really spreading out the wealth there. So now you're looking at not just a super top line. It's kind of like Edmonton when they had Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That was a heck of a line. It was difficult to stop them, and you couldn't completely shut them down. But you would focus your attention, your best defensive forwards, your top defensive pairing. You knew who you had to stop. And then, you know what? Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and the rest of you come beat us. And it didn't work. Now, Edmonton is, I think, better suited now as they've added this offseason and even last season when they, Connor McDavid was on one line, Leon Draisaitl was on another line. They spread the wealth. Well, that's what I think the Rangers do really well here. And they have, some good secondary components. But to really become a playoff team, you need the young kids to step up and take them over the hump. I think you kind of know what you're going to get from Panarin. You kind of know what you're going to get from Mika. You know what you'll get from Chris Kreider. I think you know what you get from your bottom six guys. But do you know what you're going to get from Philip Hedl?
Yep.
I absolutely believe he's got to be a top six guy this year. He's been, kind of fits and starts building towards that. He's been in the league a few years now. I think he needs to be a top six guy. If he isn't, it doesn't mean he's a bust or anything like that. Everybody wants to label guys. He's still a kid. But I'd have some concerns if I'm Jeff Gorton and John Davidson and David Quinn. If Hedl doesn't take a big step forward this year. But Hedl, Lafreniere, what are you going to get from him? Realistically this season. Is Kravtsov going to come over and play? He's playing very well in the KHL, got off to a good start. Is he going to be a contributor? You don't know. And those are the guys I think that are going to make the difference, at least as forwards. They're going to make the difference and carry them, into being a playoff team or not. The other part of it is they got to play better team defense. And boy, that's going to be tough to do when you lost your best and most reliable defensive forward in Jesper Fast.
Yep.
I think that was a really big blow. I guess I understand reasons behind it and all, but you also lost Mark Stahl. And I know Ranger fans, they've been down on him for years. It's mainly the contract. Like if he was Mark Stahl making $3 million a year, $2.5 million a year, you'd be like, wow, he kills penalties.
You could tolerate it.
He stabilizes the left side. He's a tremendous help to the young defenseman that he played with. But it was the contract, which is the reason why he was traded as well. But now you're without him as well. So that you already had a shaky defense. And now, you've lost Fast, you've lost Stahl. Going to be a heck of a lot of pressure, on the two young goalies, which I think they're fine in goal. And I think they did the right thing in clearing things up there. So I've talked my way around into this huge circle of not answering your question about if they're a contender or not, because there are all these things that factor into it. But I will say they won't be a pretender. Even if they don't make the playoffs, it doesn't mean they're a pretender. I think they are a playoff contender, though, but they really need to make a significant step forward, which I think we saw, in the Stanley Cup qualifiers. You could see how Carolina they've already taken the steps that the Rangers are just taking right now. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that playoff experience was fantastic for the younger players and for the coach as well, and for the evaluation process. Yes. In short, I do think that they are a contender and they can make the playoffs this season.
That's not good for my Islanders. But one more point on the Rangers.
I think the Islanders are in good shape too.
They should be good, but the more the Rangers get their off, the problem is the defense, and that's my next question for you is, statistically speaking, what does Jack Johnson bring to this defensive group? I know Mark Stahl left, and maybe Jack Johnson can be that leader for those young guys, but statistically, I feel like with Mark Stahl too, as he got to the end of his Ranger tenure, he was making silly mistakes that you don't want your young players watching and learning from. What does Jack Johnson bring to this team?
Yeah, I was really surprised by that signing. I mean, I guess I understood bringing in another veteran guy, which I think they needed to do, because really, your most senior guy now is Brendan Smith, who's not the most reliable. Though I will say, I thought he had a pretty good year last year, both at forward and on defense. Again, is he worth the contract that he makes? That's up for debate. But and did he struggle for sure before that? Yes. But even with the year he had last year, Brendan Smith, that's your most senior guy, on your defense now. So I understood that they were going to bring somebody else in because as well as Fox and Lindgren played last year, as the huge step forward that Tony DeAngelo took last year. And, if a Hayek or a Miller, one of those young defensemen is able to grab a role this season, great. But, how many young guys did I just name there? It's not sustainable in a long season to play the type defense you need to play with that many young kids there. So it circles back to your question, Jack Johnson, I know he fits in, price wise and everything, salary cap wise, it's a fit. He's a great guy. He's one of those great in the locker room guys. His teammates love him. And I think he does. I think he can help the young guys. I think he can provide a lot of advice, and he's a smart, good leader. I'm just not sure on the ice. I think it's a major step back going from Mark Stahl to Johnson. But again, I think their hope is that, he plays limited minutes on the third line, on the third pairing. And maybe they hope for a little lightning in the bottle that, maybe halfway through the season, a Hayek can take that spot or at least rotate in, or Keandre Miller, who's a much more dynamic player than what Hayek is projected to be. So yeah, I guess I see the reasoning behind it. There are probably some other veteran defensemen out there that you could have got for similar money and might have been, might have been produced better results on the ice. But, I think that's the reasoning behind, Jack Johnson coming to the Rangers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that they did need a veteran presence. How much of a veteran necessarily, that's up to the GM. And he decided that Jack Johnson fit that mold. And with the contender or pretender answer, you kind of segued this next one about the youngsters needing to step up. And prior to the NHL draft, when the Rangers selected Alexei Lafreniere first overall, Craig Button said on TSN that he projects Alexei Lafreniere to have 60-plus points next season, which whenever I hear that, I get a little bit, anxious. I'm like, that's a lot of pressure on a young kid, but he is the first overall pick. So do you think that, he's probably going to start on the third line, that's a likely number for him to hit, or should we expect a little bit lower?
Yeah, and again, that's under an assumption of an 82-game season as well. I mean, here are the things that make you think that he's got a shot. Again, we'll use 60 points as just a round number, but that make you think that he's got a shot at getting there. I think the Rangers are going to give him every opportunity to be a top six guy. I don't think they'll force it on him if he's not ready. Like you said, maybe he starts third line, but then they move him up, as he, gains confidence and, just fits into the league and everything. He's still a kid. Yeah. But he's also physically very mature. This isn't bringing your average 18, 19-year-old in there. He is a very physically mature kid, which, of course, is part of his dynamic. He's a dynamic player. And he plays an NHL-style game, which I love. He's not on the periphery. He's not, a lot of guys in the QMJHL, put up these 100, 120, 140 point seasons, and look at me, the guy's 5'6", 160 pounds, but they're putting up these huge numbers because it's that type, league, with, wide open offensively and what have you. But Lafreniere put up these great numbers while playing an NHL type game. He is physical. He drives the net. He puts the pressure on defensemen. Gets in on the forecheck. Does a lot of the things that you like that you need to succeed in the National Hockey League. So that's kind of reason number 2 why I think he's going to have success this year. But it kind of two-way, talking about his physical maturity. You compare him to a kid like Jack Hughes last year. Jack Hughes may not, we'll see in another 10, 12 years, may have the better career than Alexis Lafreniere or Capo Caco or whatever. But those two guys were more into their men's mold body than Jack. Like, you saw Jack out there and you could see the skill and the vision and the talent that he has. But you also saw a kid that looked like a kid. He's going to build up and he's physically going to, grow into his body. Maybe it'll be more so this year. Maybe it's another year down the road. Lafreniere is well ahead of that curve, just using Jack Hughes as an example. And that's why you really feel that, he can hit the ground running this year. He's not a number 1 overall pick where you say, well, let's give him a couple years. Yeah. Yes, let's give him a couple years to be a dominant player. But I think he can make an impact this year.
Yeah, and I know all Rangers fans hope that you were correct on that matter. And
Yeah.
It's tough though, because you look at the top 6 and you go, okay, they already have who should be there if you move Kakko up on that right wing. So where does he fit? But then you also have the guy you just selected first overall who you expect to do great things for your franchise that wants to get up there as well. So it's a good problem to have, like they say. And Jim, thank you very much for coming on the show and joining us today.
Oh yeah, my pleasure, fellas. Anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that was Jim Cerny of NHL.com. Make sure to check out his stuff on NHL.com, like I just said, and a great guy. Thank you very much again, Jim, for coming on. Stefan, we're going to take a brief break right now, and we got another guest coming on after this.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the BS Sports Show. And now our next guest is James Nichols of the Hockey Writers, covering the New York Islanders. So let's get him in. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Nothing much. It's a pleasure to have you on. I'll let Stefan kick this one off because I started the last one with Jim. So, Stefan, get to it.
First off, love the banner in the background.
Oh, thank you.
I knew that was coming.
We don't know who you're a fan of. It's all good. So, I read your latest article where you and the Hockey Writers, people that cover the Islanders, projected lines for next season, and you just elected to go with the young guys. You want to see the young guys play in Wahlstrom or Bellows on that third line, maybe even Ho-Sang. Out of all those guys, those players I just mentioned, do you think that they are all ready to take that next step, minus Ho-Sang? If you had to choose between Wahlstrom or Bellows, who do you think is more ready to make an impact right now?
It's an interesting situation right now just because, they're both up in the air. I don't think either of them really got a fair shot at the NHL level just because there was no consistency on that third line. So, J.G. Pajot wasn't there when both Bellows and Wahlstrom had their shot. So there was no third line center to consistently get that chemistry with. Now, the situation regarding Bellows as of recent, he was caught with the PEDs. I'm not sure whether, that has something to do with the uptick in his production in the AHL or not, and that's why he got the call up. So right now, in my opinion, I've had Wahlstrom ahead of Bellows for a while. So he would get the first crack at it if it was me making the lineup, but I don't get paid to do that. But I have Wahlstrom above Bellows. The jury's still out on both of them, though. But if I'm picking one to be closer, Wahlstrom, he looks really good over in the SHL right now. He had that unfortunate injury, but looks like he's going to be okay. I think Wahlstrom is better suited for that lineup. Now, regarding my article, I didn't even have Bellows starting in the NHL. I actually had Ho-Sang up there. I think there was a reason he was qualified. I think there was a reason why they settled in arbitration and everything. So I think he has a shot at maybe cracking the lineup on opening day. He's going to have to really impress, but there's a reason why he's back.
It was so interesting to see him file. I know Lou Lamoriello is very confused with it, but
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that Ho-Sang, is going to be a difference maker and he could be that guy? Or do you think we're going to have more issues where he maybe gets a chance and then he's back in the AHL and then he bounces around and all that stuff?
I mean, listen, since he overslept in 2014, what has he really done that was so wrong? They've kept it under wraps, if anything, but we haven't heard anything. He's been completely compliant. He's been very good from the Thompson standpoint down in Bridgeport. So nobody has any complaints about him except for Islander fans. Nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors. But what we do know is that the on-ice production, it was pretty obvious. The team went 9-2 with him a couple of years ago when he played 11 games. He had a couple of points. He didn't look out of place. He did maybe have, one or two blips here and there, but nothing major. And I think, in talking about who are the Islanders going to bring in this offseason, is it going to be a Patrick Laine? Is it going to be a Mike Hoffman? There's always question to everybody's defensive game coming in, no matter who it is. So who's a better coach than Barry Trotz to mold a guy's defensive game? And why not Josh Ho-Sang, somebody who's internal, who's not going to cost you $7 million like Patrick Laine, $5 million like what I anticipate Mike Hoffman signing for. So I think that he has the offensive prowess, he has the speed, he has the agility, he has the silky mitts. So I really think that he has the potential to be a top six. I think he needs to start at bottom six with some consistency. And, you have a guy like J.G. Peugeot centering the third line who could make up for the defensive mistakes that maybe, might come. But he's been around. He's had a crack at it. He's over 20, 30 games now. He might be able to make a name for himself. He has to make a name for himself this year if it's going to be any time.
And I think the unfortunate thing was he sort of got lost in the Barzal shadows because when he first came up, it was must-watch TV. When he has the puck on his stick,
right,
you have to watch. And then Barzal came and pretty much said, I'm just a better Ho-Sang. And then all the eyes were on him, and the oversleeping, the, hard to coach, quote unquote, which is what was said about him, really put him just underneath in the depth charts where he just really didn't get the chance.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think all those things are in the past. I think you can leave those in 2014, 2015, because, again, Thompson's had nothing but glowing reviews about him. His teammates love him. He obviously produces when he's on the ice. But I like that you said that he has a Matt Barzal-esque ability. He does. He's got the speed. He knows how to pass. He might pass a little too much, and Matt Barzal's guilty of the same thing. Yeah. But, he's a kid. He's got to learn. He's 24 years old. So, you see guys around the league who get their chances. Who knows if Braden Point never got a chance to step into a lineup for when Steven Stamkos got hurt? Would he be this big superstar, or would he still be buried in the NHL? So at some point, these guys need a chance, and I think this is the absolute perfect time for Josh Ho-Sang to just take that chance, grab it, and run with it. Yeah, he has to. This is his absolute last opportunity.
Yeah, but I would agree with that statement. It is his last opportunity. And the guy who's on that opposite end of the spectrum now is Johnny Boychuk. And what's the latest on him? Obviously, the Islanders in a cap crunch.
Yeah,
they need to move that type of contract. So what's the latest on Boychuk?
Yeah, so it's still very quiet. Very Lou Lamoriello, and we'll never really know. But the word is that they are still, trying to make something happen. You're probably going to see something like similar to how Mark Stahl was moved to Detroit with a consolation pick. That was the price that they had to pay to move that contract. Unfortunately, we did see Devin Tays on the move to Colorado. We got the 2 second-round picks, and I anticipate those 2 picks being attached to Boychuk because of the extra year on his contract. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure if that is going to happen. I do know that it was in the works, but a lot of things were in the works, and I'm not really sure, what direction Lou wants to go in, just because I don't think he knows yet, and he has to figure out Ryan Pulock. He has to figure out Matt Barzal. So until Pulock, and that's Friday, is resolved, I think once that domino falls, the rest are going to start falling, and we'll start seeing things happen. You see guys like Brassard was in talks to re-sign. Kuhnhackl was in talks to re-sign. Schneider was in talks to come to the Islanders. And Lou, not something he normally does, even said, yeah, it's a possibility that these things might happen. So once one domino falls, I think the rest will. But I still believe Boychuk won't be in an Islander jersey this year, this upcoming season, and it breaks my heart because he was unreal. He was a true Islander to heart. Just as much as Thomas Greiss. I would like to see him go somewhere where he has an opportunity to still win. I mean, the Islanders, I think, are still there, and they will be for a while. But to answer your question, there is nothing right now. Lou is still working on it, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, to touch on that, we had actually talked about a couple of weeks. I think it was last week or the week before that Johnny Boychuk in a second, maybe to a team that needs cap that could take on that cap space would be something similar to a Mark Stahl move. And as much as fans want to see Devon Taves, the 2 second-round picks gotten for him, be used on actual prospects and to keep that farm system healthy, it looks like it's going to be used to keep that cap room open.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they're going to try and keep one of those picks just because. They're short, some picks in this upcoming draft.
Yep.
I believe a 3rd round pick as part of the JG Peugeot trade. But if it was, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, but if I was, I would say that both of those picks are going to be on the move with Boychuk. Just they need the salary dump. Yeah,
I would agree, and I'm thinking Ottawa too. You look at them; they have cap room. I mean, Detroit has cap room, but I don't know if they want to take on another guy like a Mark. I mean, I think Boychuk is an upgrade from Mark Stahl, but they're both leaders, and that's really why they're on. That's why Mark Stahl is on Detroit. They could take the cap, but also he's got to be a mentor to this. This is a very young team, a lot of ton of prospects. But going back to Pulock, like you said, Friday is the big day for arbitration. Once one domino falls, they all should. What are you thinking a contract is going to look like for Pulock?
It's a good question. A couple of people have tweeted this at me, asked me what my opinion was on it. Someone had said to me, "Oh, Tony DeAngelo just signed for 2 years, $4.8 million a year." That's a good news for Ryan Pulock, right? And I was like, it's a negotiation factor, maybe, but I think that in the end, Ryan Pulock will end up making more than Tony DeAngelo just because Pulock is the number one defenseman. He has a lot more tools in his arsenal than Tony DeAngelo. Tony DeAngelo is a great player. He had 50 points last year, but his game really ends in the offensive zone. He's pretty bad in his own end. And I know Brendan's shaking his head. He agrees. I know.
Just ask Sebastian Aho. Yep.
But I think that, he'll probably want somewhere near 5.56 for 5 years. I'm going to say they maybe settle in a 5.2, 5.3 range. And I'm going to say between 4 and 5 years.
It doesn't allow much room for Barzal to get much unless they move some pieces.
Right. And I think that's when you see those dominoes start falling. Okay, Pulock signed for X amount of money. Now we got to make sure that this happens. Lou Lamoriello might be saying to himself, I want to hold on to these assets as long as possible to see if I can keep as much as I can. And then, okay, I need to clear cap. Pulock is signed. I need to sign my superstar. You can take the 2 second-round picks, and we'll make it work from here on out.
Yeah, Lou Lamoriello made it clear that he said he wants to keep the team intact. That was one of his main things. But obviously, with the flat cap and everything like that, that's not as doable as it looked like it was going to be before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a direct result as to why Devon Taves was on the move. I can guarantee you, September 2019, when the drawing board was up and Trotz and Lamoriello were looking at the team, Taves was part of the long term, the distant future. Unfortunately, the world we're living in now, money's tight, the cap is flat, and they were forced really to move Devon Taves. And a lot of people didn't like the trade, and I get why.
I liked it. But.
Listen, right, and I get why people didn't like it. But you look at what Nate Schmidt got in return. It was just a 3rd round pick to Vancouver. Great for Vancouver. They could have probably got a little bit more if they shopped him around a little bit. I love Devon Taves. I think he's a great player. I think Nate Schmidt is a little bit better than he is right now. Maybe Devon Taves could become a better Nate Schmidt, but I think that the Islanders got a really good return for him, and it will end up benefiting them in the long run.
I mean, you knew out of all the RFAs, if one person was going to be the odd man out, it was going to be Taves. So
yeah, I mean, I wrote an article, I want to say about a month and a half ago, and I just kept placing Devon Taves in trade situations. Just because, again, this era of flat cap and unknown about what's going to happen in the future, being able to negotiate your own contract with a player really seemed like it was something that GMs were going to want to do. So trading for an RFA, I thought was a perfect situation. And lo and behold, Devin Taves was on the move.
Yep. And you look at the contract that Devin Taves signed, I wonder if Ryan Pulock gets something similar, not monetarily, obviously, because he's probably will get a lot more, but the structure-wise, where they don't pay him as much the first couple of years to help them with the cap situation, kind of backloaded a little bit. That's always stuff that goes through GM's heads and behind the scenes that we don't necessarily know about. But another guy who is a free agent that Stefan has been adamant the Islanders should target is Anthony Duclair. He's very versatile, very talented offensively, and he has played with John Gabriel Pageau before. So do you think he could be a factor on a third line and a defensive-based system because he is very offensive-minded?
Yeah, so that's another player that I've been, tooting the horn on. I think that Duclair would be a really good fit here. I think he's an obvious choice. I don't want to say that there's a reason why some of these guys haven't signed yet, and some of the supposed signings that Lamoriello is working on haven't become official yet. Do I think that Duclair is waiting for Lou Lamoriello? No. But do I think that at some point Lamoriello should and could approach him? I do. Duclair is representing himself this offseason, and I think he oversold himself a little bit. I think he asked Ottawa for something like $5 million per year. I don't know the length of time on that contract that he asked for, but he did oversell himself a little bit. So, but a 23 goal scorer last year. He got an all-star nod. I wouldn't mind signing him for $1 million to $3 million a year. Give him a 1-year contract. See if it works out. He has the history of Pageau. He has a good relationship with Barzal. They formed a pretty good bond over at the All-Star game this past season. And he's fast. He's really fast. He came in last in the fastest skater competition, but I mean, come on, he was up against Barzal.
He's in the fastest skater. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So he can keep up to pace with a guy like Barzal. So if they have to switch him off the third line and put him on the first line just to shake things up a little bit, they can do that. And I really think that Barzal would flourish with a guy who has a nose for the net, a shoot first mentality. They don't really have that right now. Anders Lee is a great winger, don't get me wrong, but his mentality is get to the front of the net, score the dirty goal. I don't know what's up with Jordan Eberle. He decides to show up when he feels like it. Hopefully that it isn't the way it is this year. But he's a slow starter, and I think that has a lot to do with the reason why he was slow in the postseason too. They were off a couple months. They come back, and again another slow start. So I think Duclair would be a great fit if they can make the money work. It's going to be tough, but we'll see what happens. I think they can make it happen. You might have to end up moving a guy like maybe Thomas Hickey, but when you start moving all these defensemen, it gets tricky. You have to keep in the back of your mind that the Seattle expansion's on its way.
Yep, definitely. And the one interesting thing about Duclair coming to the Islanders is Barry Trotz is very defensive-minded. We saw how much Duclair struggled when he was playing with Tortorella, who's a similar type of mindset. But I do feel like Trotz has a personality that the players attach onto a lot easier than that of Tortorella. So as long as Duclair can stay out of Trotz's doghouse, I think that would actually be a very good fit.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Trotz and Tortorella are two completely different people. Tortorella is scream at you until you do it right, and Trotz just really knows how to get through to guys. So, another reason why I think like a guy like Duclair would be a really good fit, or even, and I'll keep beating this drum, an in-house guy like Josh Ho-Sang. There's nothing wrong with trying out these guys because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you put out on the ice. Barry Trotz is behind the bench, and he just knows how to get it done. He knows how to get these guys, everything out of them. Look at Brock Nelson. He's flourished. He's done really well. Look at Beauvillier. He's really coming into his own. Barry Trotz knows what he's doing. He knows how to get everything out of these guys, and it really it doesn't matter, but it would help to get a 23 goal scorer in Anthony Duclair, or what I think is top 6, possibly elite offensive material in Josh Ho-Sang.
Really high on Josh Ho-Sang. I love it.
When
you look at the top line for Islanders, obviously Eberle struggles. Lee played solid in the playoffs, but like you said, he's a guy that crashes the net, that dirty goal. If you could get let's say a guy like Hoffman or line, which is really going to be hard to do, are you more willing to see Lee drop down to maybe a second or third? Because you don't really want to separate that second line. That second line was so good. So you're thinking that if Lee goes down, it'd probably be third line. I mean, that's the only thing I think of. Or are you more willing to move Eberle, given if he continues to struggle like he did in the bubble?
I think that Barzal and Eberle have a really good back and forth. They have good chemistry. Really good passes, tape to tape. I think you have to keep Eberle with Barzal. I think eventually, and I know he's 30 years old, and he can't really teach an old dog new tricks. But I think eventually he's gonna come into it where once they figure out that top line and gain that full chemistry, I think he'll be fine on that top line. We started to see some flashes of brilliance out of him the deeper they got into the postseason. He was snake bitten a little bit, some bad luck, and he was the victim of some unfortunate opportunities. But you got to keep Eberle there, in my opinion. Now, on the flip side, Anders Lee, again, he's probably going to go down as one of the best captains in Islander history, in my opinion. But he would absolutely benefit from less minutes on the ice. It's the type of game he plays. He bangs bodies. He gets to the front of the net. He scores the dirty goals. So if he's not out there for 17, 18, 19 minutes a night, and he's out there for, say, 13, 14, 15 minutes a night on the third line, I think you'll start to see an uptick in his production because he's not banging the body out, on the ice so much, and he'll get fresher legs every shift. So I think that he would benefit from a third line role if the Islanders could acquire a first line winger.
You said you can't teach old dog new tricks, but for Eberle, that backhand moves he has to have more moves in his arsenal than the backhand. Because I feel like he was nervous to shoot on the forehand because he was either missing the net or shooting it into the chest. And if I was playing defense, I'm closing my eyes and just poke checking the backhand move because I know it's coming. What did you think about that? Because I feel like every time he went to do that move, it was stopped. You think he's more nervous about not ripping it with the forehand?
He definitely likes to do it, and when he does it, it's pretty. You can't lie.
Oh yeah,
when he gets it off, you're like, wow, that was some goal. That was the highlight of his career when he started with Edmonton. That's
that first career goal.
It was unreal. Yeah. But when guys get into slumps like that, they start gripping the stick a little tighter. They start overthinking their game a little bit. So he probably was doing that in the playoffs. And listen, these guys are on social media. They see what the fans are saying. They see what people are saying. So, he's human, and he probably, got internalized a little bit, was thinking too much. And like I said, gripped the stick a little too tight and kept trying to do the same thing over and over until it worked. But he has a great shot. He has a very good accuracy, and he has a hard shot. So he just needs to know, hey, shoot that puck, try not to make the pretty move, get the puck to the net, and the goals will come. So, he's definitely got to cut down on that pretty play a little bit and just start getting that puck to the net.
Yeah, so obviously we have to see what happens with Pulock, though. For Barzal, though, do you think we could see a bridge deal here, or even a shorter-term deal, taking less money for Lou Lamoriello to bring in someone to play alongside him? Because I know Barzal thinks in his head that I would love an elite winger with me. And do you think how much do you think that really comes into consideration when Barzal is thinking about, okay, I want to settle for this or do this, all that kind of stuff?
It's going to be interesting. When you look at, and he should be looking at too, you look at teams like, and this isn't a dig, but when you look at teams like Toronto and you see the bloated contracts and, you see the kind of production they've had, making the playoffs, getting knocked out in the first round. When you bloat contracts like that on a small amount of players, the team you build around, those players is not that supportive. So he should go into this knowing that he needs to, yes, get paid, but at the same time, if he wants to win, he's got to know that the cap is flat, and there's not much money to spend here. So I totally see a bridge deal coming. My guess is 3x7. I think that's fair for him, just because he might want Mitch Marner money. He might want Austin Matthews money, but he hasn't scored 40 goals. He hasn't put up 90 points. So, he could probably counter that with I play Barry Trotz's defense, and that's true. But, in terms of his production, he has taken some bad penalties. He has shown a little bit of inconsistency in his own end. Don't get me wrong, when he's on, but there has been a little bit of sloppy play in the defensive end. So once he starts getting more points, maybe back to that rookie year production, 82 points, 85 points, He could ask for that after the bridge. Hopefully the cap will be, back up again. I think it was projected before the pandemic to go up to something like 86, 88 million a year.
Yep.
So if they get back to that, I could see that happening. But for right now, I think that he needs to, prove himself. And, that's on the Islanders organization as well. They need to go out and acquire a top line guy for him to play with. And maybe that 3 years, he gives them that time, and, we'll see what happens. He'll still be an RFA. And I think that's the goal, to get him that 3-year deal and keep him as an RFA, but also make a little bit of money. So I'm going with 3x7.
Yeah, I just don't want to see what happened with Tavares, where it was pretty much the Tavares show. When he was on, the team wins, and when he was off, the team loses, and he never had a winger alongside him to really. I mean, he had good years with Matt Molson, and then but they weren't top players. He just made those players better. It's like Connor McDavid and Zach Kassian. Zach Kassian isn't this elite superstar scorer. He's just getting fed from Connor McDavid, which makes you look real good. So hopefully, the Islanders could bring something in. Last question for me is, we saw with the Rangers and Igor Shesterkin needing some time in the AHL before making that jump and becoming a dominant goaltender at the NHL level. I personally believe that Sorokin's got to start at the NHL level. No ifs, ands, or buts. He has to. He'll split with Varlamov till he's comfortable, though. But do you think that he's going to need an adjustment period, even though he's been practicing with the team in the bubble and the playoffs and all that stuff?
I don't. I think that, he's had enough time off at this point to consistently work with the goalie gurus in Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn. So I think that he'll have a long enough adjustment period, from getting here in the summer till, hopefully January 1 when we start. I'm not biased by any means. I am a fan, but I try to write from a professional perspective. And just reading up on, some KHL reports, some reporters like Jillian Kamara and all, they do a lot of comparisons between Sorokin, Shesterkin, all these Russian guys who are coming over. And you do see a lot of the same narrative that Sorokin, of this group of young goaltenders coming over, he just might be the best of the bunch.
Yeah,
we saw it. Yeah, we saw it with Rob Reese. He said it this week, I think, on his podcast. She wrote it, Jillian Kamara, the KHL reporter, in an article herself. She said, if you think Shesterkin's good, watch out for Sorokin. So I think Pierre Greco and Mitch Korn will have him ready. And he's on a 1-year contract, so you have to see what you got with the kid, just because you need to know what the future is going to look like with him. And I think they have a good idea. I think they know that they are going to sign him to a lengthy extension. I can't tell you how much yet. We'll have to see how
hopefully not DiPietro worth just yet.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why that rule is intact now. They don't do that anymore. But we'll see where it goes. But I think that he will have maybe the first 5 games, 10 games will be an adjustment for him. And then once the season's underway and they'll hit the ground running, I think he'll be just fine. It's likely, in my opinion, to be a condensed schedule, so he'll get a plethora of starts. Probably a lot of back-to-backs. There's a good chance you'll see a 60-40 split between him and Varlamov, with Varlamov getting the 60% there.
Well, James, thank you so much for joining us. This is great conversations. You're a great writer. We'll look forward to seeing the rest of the articles you put out there.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, man.
Have a good night.
That was James Nichols of the Hockey Writers. Does a great job. Follow him on Twitter. You read his articles and stuff. Like he says, he's a fan, but he is a very professional writer, and his takes they might not be the fan take that every fan wants to read. Obviously, he's very high in Ho-Sang when a lot of fans are completely done with him, but at the same time, he knows what he's talking about. So I would definitely follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, he definitely does, and I liked what he said about the comparisons that have been made constantly. And Islanders, Rangers fans have been making those comparisons between Shesterkin and Sorokin. And it's like, who's the better one? And the difference in their 1.7 and 1.69 goals against average is so minuscule. And it's like, you see what Shesterkin did, right? That he started in the AHL and completely tore it up, got it up to the NHL, and basically tore it up to a 10-2 start. And now if you get this Ilya Sorokin to come in, and he could do something similar, where all of a sudden he's carrying the Islanders' load, and then these two face off against each other, we could finally see who's the better goaltender, right? Which guy is going to steal the game for his team in a rivalry game of that magnitude. I just think it's excellent for hockey to have these two guys both in New York playing each other. It'll be awesome.
Well, what you just said, and I want to make a point of that, is you want to say who's going to steal games for who. obviously it's more important for Shesterkin to steal games with the defense, because the good thing about the Islanders system, especially if he needs more time to adjust, I'm saying at the NHL level, so maybe a few games in, not that he struggles, but Islanders defensive group does such a great job of helping out their netminders. Thomas Greiss, great goalie, Varlamov, great goalie, but in the system the Islanders play under Trotz, it's not 30, 40 shots a game of pressure from every angle. It's more focus on positioning and rebounds because they have you. You know, the backdoor play is not going to be there. And for the Rangers, you can't really say the same, where Shesterkin's going to have to be Lundqvist. He's going to have to be Lundqvist, where I think it benefits Sorokin. He has time to adjust, truly focus on the little things rather than being thrown into the mix where it's you have to stop 30 shots a game or we're not going to win.
Yeah, I mean, he'll have to be Lundqvist-esque this year. I think that the whole point of the Rangers rebuild, bringing him here, is they got these young prospects now that are going to perform. Because when Lundqvist, when they were going on these runs, the Rangers averaged like 2.2 goals a game allowed, which was always top 3 in the league. And it wasn't necessarily because it was just Lundqvist, even though he did carry the team, obviously, as we all know, every year. But they had McDonough on that defense. They had Dan Girardi. They had Mark Stoll when he was good. They had Strawman for a year. They had Keith Yandel they brought over. They had so many guys that were actually good defensemen. Then they moved on from them. Now they're bringing back these young players that are going to kind of fill that void again. So I think that you're going to see what Shesterkin may look like in 2 to 3 years by what Sorokin looks like in his first 2, because the Rangers defense is going to wind up being stout. They're going to get to that level of the Islanders, and the Islanders are already stout and are going to keep that level up. So it's going to be, they're going to mirror each other. I think they're going to be competitive with each other for the next 5 to 6 years, as long as they keep their course intact.
I mean, I truly believe Sorokin's the franchise netminder for 10 plus years. I mean, that's what I want to hope as a fan.
Both teams got it.
The same time, like, you know, what Nichols was saying was all these writers, everyone's saying the same thing. Like, if you think Shesterkin's good, wait till. I mean, I've watched the Sorokin highlights, and obviously that's the KHL. It's not the talent at the NHL level. But at the same time, just watching him play, how natural, how smooth, I can't wait.
Well, but we're going to move on to our favorite games in 1 second. But when you talk about the videos you see from the KHL, and you just look at Shesterkin's highlight tape and then Sorokin's highlight tape, I have never seen more split saves, stick saves, just saves where it looks like they have no chance and they're making it. Just unreal athleticism by the both of them. And honestly, I don't even know if you could say who's going to be better, because Sorokin might have to have an adjustment period, and if he does, it's not a knock on him. It's a different ice service, and Shesterkin is going to be facing so many shots that his goals against average might be a little more elevated than he would like it to be. So there's certain factors that play into that, and like you said, that was the KHL. This is the NHL, so no matter what, these guys are still the best of the best shooting at you, and I think it's going to be awesome to see how well these guys transition. But Stefan, I'll let you kick this off.
No, you go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'd love for you to go first.
All right, should I start with my second favorite or my first favorite?
Go second and then work your way up.
All right, I like that logic. So my second favorite game, this was tough because I know what my number 1 is. The number 2 always fluctuates, but I went to the Rangers home opener against Columbus in 2015. They wound up winning 5-2, but it was the game where Lundqvist, he made 37 saves on 39 shots. And it was that crazy stick save where the puck bounced off the end wall. Ryan Johansson had a wide open net, and it was like everyone screaming save of the year candidate in the game 3 of their season at the time. And I just remember watching him play that game. And now that he's gone, this one kind of popped into my head as like a reminiscent moment. But there was 4 or 5 saves that he had no business making, highlighted by that stick save. But there was a scorpion one, a glove save, a pad save. Wasn't even prime Lundqvist, and he was still doing that stuff. And that will always stick with me.
Was that the blocker one save too? Or was that a different game?
That was a different game.
That crazy block. Yes. That was in the playoffs, actually. That was against Montreal, I think, in the playoffs.
Oh, you're talking about the Thomas Vanek one where he dropped the stick and did the whirlwind.
Yeah, that save always.
That was in the game that they won the Eastern Conference Final with, which makes that save even 20 times better because, fun fact, right? Yes, against the Canadiens. And a minute and a half after that save, the Rangers scored the only goal of that game. So that shows you, by the way, how much Lundqvist contributes to everything the Rangers have had success over the last 20 years, 15 years, not 20. But what is your second favorite game, Stefan?
So my second favorite game is it's a loss. It's a loss. But my second favorite game, April 11, 2015, and the only reason I'm putting this on there is that was the the first of the last game supposedly at Nassau Coliseum as they moved to Barclays Center, and obviously they've come back, they've played. But for me, I was 2015. I was how old?
7.
I wasn't 7. I was 17. That's what it was. I was getting ready to
thought about it for a second.
I'm not good at math, Brandon. Anyway, I said, you know what? I don't have a lot of money, but I want to go to this game. And so I don't remember how much we paid. We sat pretty much on the glass, very close for that last game. Unfortunately, the Islanders blew a lead twice in the last 9 minutes, and they lose in a shootout to Columbus. But at the same time, the atmosphere, I can't even put into words. It was sad. It was happy. All the memories. And obviously, my dad growing up on the island, he's seen all the Stanley Cup wins. He has more of a connection, obviously, to that building than I do because it's been around for a lot longer than I have been. But at the same time, though, it was just the crowd was going nuts, the chanting, everything like that. It was just unreal. I mean, I said they lost, but I feel like every fan left that arena, happy that they were able to see the last game. So we thought there.
Yeah, no, those types of moments make everything special, right? And you could go, I think, not today, but yesterday was the anniversary of Eddie Jacquemin's return to Madison Square Garden, and every time you read a quote about that game from a fan, a writer, they said there were no Rangers fans at Madison Square Garden last night. And fans legitimately say it was the only time that they ever rooted against the Rangers when he was playing in goal for Detroit and he wound up getting that win, guys crying in net. Like those types of games, they just mean more because it's a guy that you watch. Same way when Lundqvist returns, if there's fans there, it's going to be like, who do you root for, right? This guy carried your team for so long. But moving on to my number one game, I mean, this one was the craziest game I've ever been to just because the range of emotions. It was Game 5 against the Washington Capitals. The Rangers were down 1-0 because of a breakaway goal to Curtis Glencross, I believe. And
it was the name from the
exactly. There was 2 minutes left, and I vividly remember Joel Ward had scored, and it got waved back for I don't know if it was a high stick, a kicking motion. Then Glencross scores. So you're like, oh god, they're really going to lose this game. Chris Kreider scores to tie it up with I think a minute 20 to go on a wrist shot from so far out that nobody thought it would go in, and the place just erupts. And I still get chills thinking about it. And then you go to OT, and McDonough scores the overtime winner 5 minutes in. I've never been at a game where the Garden was that loud. I'm hugging my brother, the random people in front of me. There's beer flying everywhere, just awesome atmosphere. You walk out to the streets, everyone's still chanting, "Let's go Rangers!" That's why when they went to this rebuild, it was so tough to watch because you're going to these games, and sure, the Garden still has a great atmosphere, but nothing like when they're on these types of runs and they're scoring an overtime winners. So that game, Game 5 against the Washington Capitals in 2014, 2015, one of those 2 years will always be my favorite game.
Before we get to my favorite game that I've been to, I have one more BS headline to add, and that's the fact that somebody ordered DoorDash with my credit card.
Right now?
And I got an alert saying that thank you for purchasing some taco place. And I just have 3 missed calls from a place in California. So I'm assuming they are connected. I would have loved to answer it live on the show, but I thought better of myself. So I will deal with that after the show commences. But I hope whoever got them is enjoying their tacos. Clearly they can't reach them because fraud.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, let's move on. My favorite game, and Islander fans definitely remember this one. It was a cold winter day, February 11th, 2011. The Islanders beat the Penguins 9-3. And I can't memorize the stats. I literally have to read this for you. But 65 penalties were assessed, including 15 fighting majors and 21 game misconducts, resulting in a total of 346 penalty minutes. And let's do the math, 2011. So I was 13 years old. And all I remember at the end of this game was, should I answer it? California? No, I'm not going to.
Take this one after.
But I remember looking at the scoreboard, then looking at the bench and seeing I think it was 5 guys on one bench, 4 on the other. It was a joke. And I just remember looking at the clock and looking at the penalty minutes and thinking that's got to be a typo. There's no way there's 346. And then, I went home, NHL Network, and then years later talking about that game and everyone here, I'm like, it was right. It was crazy. And then Michael Haley, an enforcer in this league, he's bounced around a couple of teams, played for the Rangers. He goes out and the puck's in the defensive zone for the Islanders. And I just see Michael Healy. I'm like, Dad. Michael Healy comes from the Islanders bench all the way to Brent Johnson, who's in net for Pittsburgh. Brent Johnson is the guy that pretty much was a knockout blow to end DiPietro's career and technically knocked him out.
Yep.
He just starts fighting him. They jump. Everybody goes nuts. I mean, it felt like old time hockey, and we'll never see that again. It was just, I can't even put into words, just the fighting. It was like Goon.
It was Donnybrook, baby.
It was just full on. It was I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. That's pretty much it. And the best thing was that the Islanders just crushed them on the scoreboard. And that game was crazy. And I'm watching going, this game's rated R. Like, if I was a couple years younger, I would not be allowed to watch this if it was on TV or whatever. It was just absurd, the amount of gloves flying. But I just remember, though, the penalty box staff, the ejections every 5 seconds. And the refs must have hated this game because every time there was a play break or a whistle, fight against the boards. It was just, all in all, an amazing game to be at. And I wish I was a little older because I don't remember it as much as I wish I did. But one of those games I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, definitely. You went to a scene from the movie Slapshot is basically what you saw. But, I mean, those types of games they're few and far between. But when you're there, now it's not the type of hockey we want to see. But when you're there and you see like the intensity that these guys are going at it with, the fans are going crazy. Those are the types of games that they make it so much like more fun to be in attendance at. But speaking of old-time hockey, we're going to now go into our top 5 alternate/retro jerseys. We're going to throw a couple of, older jerseys in there, Stadium Series jerseys. We got a good variety. So, Stefan, I'll let you kick things off with your top 5.
Yep, let me just the driver said he's outside in California, and I just want to tell him that it's
the wrong place.
Wrong state, wrong place. All right, so my top 5. I'm not going to remember the years of these jerseys, obviously, but, I did the research. So we'll go 5-1. These Washington Capitals jerseys, I'm a big fan of. We went back to but red is my color, and this jersey, I think, it looks like such an old fashioned. We just started the NHL. Let me just put out the basic stuff I possibly can, and it just looks vintage. That's the first thing I think of is vintage, and I love the colors. I think for the Capitals too with the stars, perfect jersey. We talked about the Avalanche jersey last week. They were on my hated home jerseys. These have to be their home jerseys now because it's just brilliant. It's basic, but at the same time, it's got the mountain in it, for Colorado with the avalanche and the snow, the sea, obviously for Colorado. But I just thought it's a very old-fashioned look to it. You just got a basic triangle, but I like the color scheme and everything like that. Beautiful. Number 3, this is by far my favorite Islander jersey of all time, and I think it's because when I really started watching the team, this is what they wore. A lot of people hate this. I was looking at a ranking, and they have this worse than the Fisherman jersey, and we will get to the Fisherman jersey because we'll get to it. But I think these jerseys are just absolutely awesome. I wish they had an alternate like this with a little orange. They don't really have a jersey that's orange, and they're orange and blue.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 for me, these Chicago Blackhawks jerseys, again, old-fashioned type of throwback looking. They're just clean, black and white. Chicago obviously that's not their main colors. It's black and red, but you see in their home jerseys how nice they are. All the jerseys the Blackhawks have are very nice because you think about it. It's original 6. They can't really do wrong, but these jerseys were just so clean. And when they wear them on the ice, when they wore them for the Winter Classic, I forgot what year. Beautiful. Loved it. And my top one, these Detroit jerseys are phenomenal. Whoever came up with this idea deserves a raise. I don't know if he's still in the business, but whatever. Again, big red guy. I just thought the D in the middle, just I'm a big font guy, Brendan. You know this.
Oh, yeah.
Fonts. Yeah. This is just a perfect font for this jersey. And I think it's flashy. When you think of the Red Wings when they wore this, guy like Datsuk, Zetterberg, go silky guys. You think of silky when you see that jersey. Like you look at this jersey and go, okay, I can see Datsuk doing all of his incredible moves in this, and it looked great on TV. But those are my top 5.
Very nice variety, actually. Color-wise, logo-wise, nothing too stagnant. So good top 5. I, too, have that Detroit Red Wings jersey on my list, but that's falling more in the middle at 3. You're right, though. That Detroit Red Wings jersey, first of all, when you look at it, it pops. Second of all, they wore it outside, and it popped even more on the ice outside. And just the color scheme, that D, the way the jersey is not the typical straight edge. It's slashed a little bit. That's a phenomenal jersey, one of the cleanest I've ever seen. I actually wanted to buy it right away. Every time it was in NHL 21, I was playing as not 21 at the time, 15. But every time I was playing NHL 15, I wanted to wear that jersey, Detroit Red Wings. And they were actually good back then, so good team to play with. But the number one jersey that I have is the Arizona Coyotes Kachina jersey. And even when they weren't using this as their alternate, I loved it. I just thought it was so unique. You don't see anything like this in the league. The color pattern, the font, not font, but material type pattern around the brims of the sleeve and bottom. And then just the Coyote playing hockey with the button eyes. Like, it's just so unique and awesome. And some people probably hate it because it's so outlandish. But to me, it's one of the most fun and unique jerseys of all time. And it's my favorite alternate. Number two are the old Whalers one. The Carolina Hurricanes actually brought these back, which I'm such a big fan of. And you don't often find green jerseys around the hockey league. Like the Dallas Stars are one of the only teams that has one, but this one is predominantly green. The logo's so crazy, and then the multiple colored stripes, just an awesome jersey. I already talked about the Detroit Red Wings one at 3. At 4, this is the Winnipeg Jets Heritage Classic ones. It's not their regular alternates. They have a powder blue alternate, which it's an okay jersey, but this one's so much nicer.
That's nice.
Like, this one is just, the color scheme is better. The blue main color popped on the ice outside. The hockey stick for the J and the Jets. It's kind of more of a tribute to the old Winnipeg Jets jerseys before they moved, when Solani would wear them. Yep. So I think that they should change that to being their new alternate. And the 5th one, nobody might agree with me on this because it is not an exciting jersey by any stretch of the imagination. But for some reason, it really does. And it's so old-fashioned. But for some reason, this jersey is just, it's one of my favorites of all time. And the fact that you can wear it on a holiday and people actually know what it is speaks volumes.
So you can wear it when you drink.
No, I mean, listen, you see a lot of people wearing stuff on St. Patrick's Day. Every team now has a St. Patrick's Day jersey that they wear, but still the St. Pat's one gets worn everywhere, every year, because it's just perfect. It's St. Pat's. It's for the day, and it's a clean jersey.
No, it's clean. It's definitely clean. I wouldn't get number 91 on that, but definitely.
Austin Matthews. And by the way, you can't see it in this picture, but the numbers on the jersey, because it's supposed to, they actually wore this before they were the Maple Leafs.
They were the St. Pats, yeah.
Yes, the numbers on the jersey are still in the patch form. So they're a little lopsided. They're not even. And that gives it a nice, cool retro look on the back, too.
Yeah, well, I'll go to your top pick right here. Automatically, I think of Shane Doan.
Yes.
And it just brings you back to the glory days of he was an awesome guy. So
Shane Doan and Jeremy Roenick, by the way.
Yes,
Roenick was on the Coyotes for a little bit. But now the undesirables, if you will. Stefan, you actually had one which I didn't put and I should have put, because this triggers all my emotions looking at your number one most hated jersey.
Yeah, well, first off, the Sabres organization as a whole, I don't like them. I just think that they're just terrible. I know Taylor Hall is there now, and you think he's the next coming of Jesus and he's going to bring this team to the playoffs, but he's not. They need help in goal. Defense, I don't see him working out. But anyway, this jersey, I don't remember what year it was. I know I told you it, but
I clicked something. Sorry.
It's all right. This, first off, looks like one of those jerseys that you throw in practice to determine, like, oh, you're a forward. Like, you're the forward jersey. That's what it looks like to me. Like,
it's the no contact jersey.
Yeah, no contact jersey. And it just, to me, it just doesn't look professional at all. I don't know. Maybe the person was color challenged. I have a friend that's color challenged, and maybe he meant to put a different color and he put yellow on accident. It happens. I don't think everyone is color challenged that saw it. I just think it is a very, very weak jersey and just represents the Sabres organization as a complete whole.
The yellow doesn't even match the gold on the Sabre.
No,
like, it's just horrendous.
Yeah, brutal. Next one, and I've done polls on Twitter for this. Fans have spoken out. A lot of people don't like the Fisherman jersey. I freaking hate it. I wasn't really, that the early 2000s when they had this jersey, and I'm not a fan of the turquoise. I think it is I just don't like it. I don't think it represents the Islanders well. I get it. It's a fisherman. But, I fished once in my life. Like, once. I don't like fishing to begin with. So maybe that's why I don't like this. I know Sorokin's new helmet by Dave Art, because he does all of them, has a lighthouse and the fisherman on it. Don't love it, but if Sorokin plays ball in it, I will easily forgive. But at the same time, I think It is a complete joke, and it was during a time when Islanders were a joke. So
that's true.
Both these jerseys make sense for the situations where they're being worn in.
Yeah, the Buffalo one, the two things that stand out right away are, why are the bottom of the sleeves gray? It just doesn't make sense to me. And the other, it looks like somebody was eating a hot dog with mustard on it and it just squirted and got all over their white jersey at the time, because it just, the whole color coordination scheme does not make sense. But thank God they only lasted 2 years and they got away from that jersey.
Go back to that 1 second. Is there a pouch at the bottom? Is it a kangaroo? What is the blue line at the bottom?
Oh, it's to tie the top into the bottom. But instead of what they should have done was keep the bottom of the sleeves blue. They shouldn't have done the jersey in general.
They did look at the Islanders one. As much as I hate it, they kept the whole entire bottom blue. Why is that one cut?
Because the whole jersey was a debacle.
It's just bad.
It was brutal. The amount of hatred that it got when it first came out, let alone for the next 2 seasons that they kept it. But yeah, so mine, I also hate the Fisherman one, just because to me it looks like a clown costume at an 8-year-old's birthday party. But it's just not a good alternate jersey at all. The dark one might be worse, but I hate the color white on jerseys because they're just plain to me. The one I hate the most is controversial because it hasn't been worn yet. It's the new Dallas Stars third jerseys. To me, the whole neon scheme, I'm going to throw up on it. The picture, I cut the head off because the guy's black tinted visor makes him look like he's from the movie Tron, not playing in the NHL.
Exactly what I thought. I was like, what futuristic.
It might wind up looking good on the ice, but the whole concept to me is awful because they have the old Dallas Stars jerseys where it was the legitimate star on the bottom of it with the word Stars written out that Madonna used to wear, that you can make a modern version of that and it would look so much nicer, especially with every team, all the fans especially wanting to go back towards that retro look. I just think they could have done so much better than this. And I didn't want to keep it with the old-fashioned jerseys that we hate. This one, to me, why?
Well, I'll tell you why. Ben Bishop wears this, and the lights are out. You have the best guy glow in the dark on the bench because he's not playing. That's it. And to me, this is really cool if they're playing in the dark. If there are no lights, wow. Imagine they had a neon green helmet with this and the gloves.
I don't know what they're going to have with that.
This guy. Sorry, I'm dealing with this. I told him I can't answer it now. I'm on a live radio show. He goes, answer the phone. I'm gonna have to answer it real quick. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm actually on Long Island right now, and I got the alert that you were here, but I did not order food, and that is my credit card that was used. So I've already filed a complaint for it, but yeah, that's not me, and I didn't order food. Okay, well, if you delivered it, I guess they'll enjoy it and then they'll get in trouble. I don't know. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. I gotta go. Bye. All right, click.
Wow.
Anyway, he goes, well, I just delivered it, and I said, well, I guess they're enjoying it. So. Yep. That's absurd.
Well,
anyway,
we've seen the lights go out a couple of times at NHL arenas mid-game, and the Dallas Stars will be the only team that can play through that. So that is a positive. The funniest thing I saw on Twitter in the last week was when these jerseys got released, the Texas Rangers posted a picture of 4 of their players wearing these jerseys, and somebody commented just the box of Monster and said, look, it's a 4-pack of Monster energy drinks. And I just started hysterical laughing because that's the color scheme of it. It's just terrible. Awful jersey.
Awful. We have 7 minutes to go. Let's get to our our NHL rewind, Brendan.
Yeah. So there's been some stuff. Yeah.
Tuesdays are the day for at least for Islander fans. So I'll read this one today. In 2007, Al Arbour coaches in his 1,500th and final NHL game, coming out of retirement per Islanders head coach Ted Nolan's request in a 3-2 win over Pittsburgh. Ted Nolan, round of applause to you. That was an awesome thing. I do remember that. It was awesome to see, rest in peace to Al Arbour, everything he did for this Islanders organization. But, finishing it off, imagine going out at $14.99 and having to wait years. Like, obviously to him, he didn't care about the number. He did enough of amazing things. But to get to 1,500, it's a really special thing.
Yeah, it's a nice whole number, and luckily they won the game because I feel like it would have been a lot less meaningful if they lost it, but a close game and they came out on top, so that's always good as well. The next one is all the way back in 1948 on this day, and this one's really cool because we all know the legend of Gordie Howe, and rest in peace to him also, but Gordie Howe appears in the first of 23 All-Star games in his career, and we know how long he played in the NHL. He's one of the few people, if the only person, might be to play with his sons, which is kind of crazy. But Gordie Howe is in the first of his 23 career All-Star game appearances on this day in 1948.
Brendan, we're not even 23 years old.
Yeah, he played in our age All-Star games.
That's
absurd how good he was for how long he was.
That's
around.
crazy. All right, 1987. This date, Marcel Dion scores a goal for the Rangers in a 5-3 win against the Flames, becoming the second player in history at that time to have 1,700 points.
It's a lot of points.
Yes, Brendan, that is a lot of points, yes.
That is a lot of points in the NHL. Marcel Dion, of course, on the NHL all-time 100 list, is one of the greatest goal scorers, point scorers of all time. So the fact that we happen to be doing a show on the day in 1987 when he scored his 1,700th is pretty cool.
You know, on this day, we recorded our 23rd episode.
That, you know what? I feel like that will go down on this list at one point. If we keep working, that will go down on 2020 in October 20, November, whatever the day is, November 3rd. Wow.
That's a dumb take by me, though. I mean, every Tuesday when we do these things is an X episode for us. But to end it, I'll end it, Brendan.
Yep.
The year we were born, 1998. This day, 1998. Penguins score on their 12th consecutive power play. 12 consecutive power play goals, extending their own NHL record. All right, we know around the league what a good power play is at 24% and up.
Yep.
That's very well. That's 100%.
That's really good.
24 is very good. I mean, I don't know if you want to look it up right now, Brendan, quickly while we're talking before we go. Find out what they ended the season with.
This was 2007 or 1998. Wow, yeah. I'm sleeping today, huh?
I mean, the fact that, especially from an Islanders point of view, they are better. They go on the power play. The other team has the advantage.
Yep.
I can't imagine scoring 2 consecutive power plays and then having 12. That's just surreal. And that team was dominant. So.
I know that last week we had that crazy Carolina Hurricane statistic, and now we come back this week with 12 consecutive power play goals, which is just absurd because that's over a course of 3 games. They went 1 for 7 in that game too. They didn't score on their next 6.
Are you serious?
Yeah, their power play. If this was 98-99, their power play finished at 17.9%.
No, it wasn't. It was 97-98 because it is
okay.
Oh no! Wait, no. It is.
Well, I'll look. I'll do a double check.
I lied. It's November.
So it is 98-99.
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. So what was their power play?
17.9%. But now we talk about good power plays today being in the 20s. The leader that year was at 22%. This league used to be a lot more defensive. It was a lot more low scoring in 98. So the fact that they were able to be 17.9% on their power play, but scored on 12 straight, just shows how dominant that run was.
And then how non-dominant it was
the rest of the season.
Islander season.
It was like their win streak, their point streak, whatever that was.
10-game win streak, 17-game point streak. We'll never forget that.
I mean, you see some streaks around the league, and the one that always comes to my mind was the lockout shortened season when the Blackhawks won 23 point straight games at a point. But you think about it, how many times could that happen? And just seeing history every time. So I mean, that's kind of cool, and I'm sure that next week we'll have something similar because it seems like every day, and that's in the calendar year, has some cool, at least during the hockey season, has a cool anecdote of what's happened on that date in history.
Yeah, we had a great guest today. I mean, I know I got cut out on one of them because technology is not on my side this whole entire week. But great interviews, and I think that we try to find things to talk about. We obviously can't wait for hockey season to start.
Oh yeah,
it'll be a shame if we have to wait January 1st, February, then maybe March, then maybe no season. Obviously, I want a season to happen. Don't get me wrong, and I hope there's more news too. I hope, free agency. I'm really curious. I really think Hoffman's going back to Florida, but I would love to see what happens with that. Duclair, Pulak news Friday is going to be a big thing because he really dictates what Barzal is going to get because they got to balance it out with the under $9 million available in cap space. So it's going to be a very important week.
Next week, we will have some arbitration news to get into at least. Ryan Strome, Lemieux, Pulak, like you said, they'll be closing out their deals. I know Ryan Strome today, the Rangers said 3.6 is what they filed, and he asked for 5.7. So that's a big gap.
Discrepancy, Brennan.
That is a discrepancy. That's a good term. That's a huge gap. And I think that what's going to wind up happening is a short-term $4.6 million deal. Something like that will be decided upon. I found out something new today, by the way, courtesy of Cap Friendly, that if a team walks out of the ding and says, if he gets awarded 5.7 and the Rangers just walk out and say, we're not paying that, Strome has 4 days to sign what the Rangers offered. If not, he's a free agent.
And nothing, no picks, nothing goes that way.
That I'm not sure. But to me, why would you sign that unless there's no teams interested and you just completely highballed the hell out of yourself? But we'll talk about that stuff next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Thank you for staying with us with the technical difficulties. I know you won't miss out on the no commercials this episode. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.